With the boys?
With the boys,
yeah.
Right. What are boys? The people that haven't grown up yet.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the problem with wrestling. If you said, Alex, sum up wrestling to me in one word encapsulates everything that's wrong with wrestling, right? It's irresponsibility. Irresponsibility. The very nature of what you do to your body, right, is irresponsible. So, and irresponsibility is if you've not had a moral head leading you. That's why people to me like Robbie Brookside are. I'd like, if we made lots of money from the FWA project, I'd like to give Robbie Brookside a full-time salary, because someone like Robbie, when I broke in, it was because of Robbie. I can credit some of it to Dixon, and Dino's like obviously my biggest inspiration, but to some, Dino's always going to... Dino Scarlo's always going to land on his feet, but Robbie is someone who's committed so much to wrestling. And he once said to me, and he told Dino as well, Alex has done more for wrestling than I've ever done, right? And I couldn't believe, and I don't believe that, but I can understand why he would say that. But someone like Robbie, the reason I mention him is because he's one of the few people that, from my perspective at least, has had morals in British wrestling. He's passionate about it, and you wouldn't be a dick in the dressing room in front of Robbie. But unfortunately, you get all these like people, I can't stand it when I see all these people who are like, I'm a veteran, I've done it 17 years, but that's the first time I've ever referred to myself, I think, as a veteran. I don't call myself, because I'm not even 30 yet. But I see people walking around, and it's premature vet syndrome, I call it. Oh, I'm so cool because I'm a vet. Oh, it's like, oh, fuck off. Like, you're not really, you're just doing that because it makes you look cooler than the other boys, and that's what it needs. And it needs somebody to say this stuff. And actually, we're a team. All of us are a team, and we need to be responsible for each other, because if we're not responsible for each other, as history and other promotions have shown you, no one's going to be responsible. As Sherry Martel found out when she died in that trailer, no one's going to be responsible for you unless we be responsible for ourselves and help each other. And I think that's why that's so important.
Another one of the things that's been described as irresponsible, certainly in British wrestling, is this proliferation, I guess, of wrestling schools. Now, the criticism is that wrestling schools too often put their trainees onto main shows too soon, just because they want to promise trainees that they'll get to be performing in front of an audience, all that kind of thing. I know that it's one of the FWA's new FWA principles to bring through new talent, and I know you feel very strongly about what needs to be done in terms of training regimes for wrestling. What can you say about that?
Well, I mean, it's going to be announced very shortly, but it's something I put pen to paper with about 4 or 5 years back, along with Dino Scala and Doug Williams, and we wrote a wrestling syllabus. And only recently has the syllabus come back around, because it was something to do with we asked what age our insurance covered our students. And the guy said to me, well, they're technically covered from the age of 5, but it's a very grey area because you're not a martial art. And we were like, well, yeah, you're not a martial art, so that could be a problem. Right, well, we need to fix that. How do we become a martial art? Well, what you need is a nationally recognised syllabus. You can't just set up a syllabus at even 1 or 2 schools. It has to be a chain of schools, and they have to be independent schools using a syllabus, right? What happens is you get in a situation where you've got even if you have four schools using a syllabus that are all combined, it's still not, you've made your own martial art. By having this syllabus, but taught by different schools, it's then we are going to get this classified as a martial art. We've even got Huntington College, right, actually doing a course in professional wrestling now using this syllabus. It's a really big thing. So that is going to really help, because right now I could be stood next to somebody who's done 6 months in karate and they've got more of a provable qualification than me. And that's not right. But it's only not right because, again, it's out-the-box thinking. People have said to me, oh, wrestling's not a martial art. How isn't it? I can show you, I can put you on your knees with a wrist lock and one thumb. I can put one thumb's worth of pressure on you and put you on your knees. That's a martial art to me from a wrist lock, right? And but your match, well, that's your katas. That's when you go through and you so that's how it works. So we're doing it in wristbands, right? So it's like a white, like a sweatband. A white band is your first grade. When you get to your 8th grade, it's a black band. Now, does that mean you're a pro? No, it means you have a black grade, right? A black wristband in the martial art of pro wrestling. You could be a black belt in Taekwondo. It doesn't mean you're a professional fighter. It's completely different. But what it does mean is these people have got something to aim for. Even a bad teacher, right, even if he nicks our syllabus from the website, at least he knows what a student should know. It's been approved by people. Like, people are going to say, who are you to approve that? Well, first of all, I'm not, if somebody says, who are you to approve that? If I tell them why I think I am, they're not going to believe it anyway, because they should know if they've listened to this interview. Secondly, I'm somebody who's had the initiative to try and do it. So either there's lots of people who I'm sure are more qualified than me, but they've not done it. Somebody has to do it. And secondly, I'm having this checked by loads of people. If anybody's out there listening to it who feels that they're more qualified than me, I'm urging them, contact us and make adjustments to it. But this has been, we're not saying, this is how it is. And the actual syllabus is, if you look at it, it's all done. There's certain things up until the 4th grade that you need to know. You need to know a lock-up, a full Nelson, wrist lock, that kind of stuff. But from that point, it all becomes about your individuality. It's like show us 4 unique moves from this position, 6 submissions. It doesn't tell you what submissions, because we don't want to produce clones. Wrestling's all about finding the uniqueness in you. And the last grade is a match, and you're rated on your shine, your heat, your comebacks, your finish. That's how so we'll see what happens. But I think that will change wrestling and at least give it structure. Dino Scala used to say to me, do you know where FWA... He always used to tell me FWA wasn't going to work. And one of the things he said, it won't work because there's no structure. He always used to say that, there's no structure. And if he's out there listening to it, he'll laugh because that was his thing. And I finally understood what he meant after all that time. It needs structure.
So let's talk about the structure of what FWA is doing then in terms of training. I mean, I know it's been mentioned that SAS and Future Shock Wrestling are among the feeder groups, and then there's these unsigned shows. So again, briefly, but how does it work? If you're a wrestler who's joined up via the Grapple group or whatever, how do you get onto a main show?
Should we start from the beginning? Say you want to be a wrestler, right? You turn on your TV and you go, I want to be in WWE. This is the chain it takes. There's other chains, but this is how we have provided a route now. You go to a wrestling school, right? One of the BWC schools, you do your grade. We're going to do diplomas in advanced psychology, all that kind of stuff. Because there are things that I can sit down with someone for 3 hours and tell them things about the advanced psychology of a wrestling match. Things that I've, well, who are you? Well, Mick Foley decided that he thought it was his idea to put me over, and Mick Foley is a master of psychology. Jake Roberts did the same. Raven did the same. Find me 3 people with those credentials when it comes to psychology. They've all mentored me or put me over, right? So but of their choice. So that's all. I'm not saying but I've learned from them. That's the point, and they saw something in me, right? Probably just a regular bunch of work in the UK. I don't know, but no, none of those people would have done that, particularly Foley, unless they thought it was the right thing. So you can do a diploma in psychology, right? So there's lots of different things you can do, but. So this is the stuff we're looking into, but the route you would take, you would go to a school, you would do your grade, you would do whatever extra stuff you could, right? After that point, you've got your 8th grade. I guess you would say you've done a match, so you're at least trainee show ready. You do your trainee shows, right? Or you ask to, if your school hasn't got trainee shows, you ask to be put on one of the BWC trainee shows. Once you do the trainee show, if you stand out, people from the unsigned shows or the companies that are, like, for example, SAS is going to find people who are unsigned. So say SAS goes to the school in Exeter that have trainee shows. So Barry from SAS, right? Or Don Charles from SAS goes down to that show. He sees someone good, says, right, I want to put you on SAS. SAS is going to give you a bit of experience with working the cameras, that kind of stuff. They do SAS. Don says to me, right, this guy now is ready for unsigned. After a point, we put him on unsigned. If he does the unsigned and we like him, then we might use him on some dark matches or whatever for the FWA main shows, right, or the house shows. Once he's done unsigned and he's got over the crowd, then he goes on to the FWA, right? He does the FWA. Now he's on the FWA. He's now working on the shop window for the agency, right? The shop windows agency, which is FWA. Okay. So then after that point, he would be able to then go to the WWE. Right, so he's on the shop window. He has now been seen by potentially Johnny Ace or Terry Taylor. That is so. If he's got what it takes to get to WWE or one of those companies, he's then got the route. Does that make sense? Because he's now on the agency shop window. So that's a clear route now. It's a structure.